Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 54 of the Clutch Dump. I'm Nicholas Patty, and my wife and my co-host hate my blue light glasses. I didn't know what they were going to look like when I ordered them. I'm sorry. I've already heard all the old people jokes, so you can save them. Just shove them where the sun doesn't shine. I don't need to hear it.
But if you're listening to this on one of our multiple audio platforms, whether that be Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Pandora, Apple, and Google Podcasts,
go for it. Run with it.
Make sure that you jump over to YouTube so you too can laugh at Nick's new glasses.
Right. You can also laugh at me because Brendan Bielefeld tossed me a Coors can from 25 yards away, and this is actually the best it's looked, but the edge of the can tore into the palm of my hand, and then I sliced the tip of my index finger clean off while trying to open a box that these glasses were in.
Porsche drivers and your soft hands, man.
Yeah, it's my
ridiculous
European hand. That's a well-timed joke because last weekend when I drove out to my parents for Father's Day, I was driving in my European leather driving gloves.
But how old are you trying to be?
I just need an MG, dude, and I am there. I am like the peak British car driver.
Honestly, so that is horrible.
This is episode 54. Episode 53, I don't know if it exists or where it is.
So that's an important thing to note.
Yes.
Listeners, viewers will be very confused about the fact that they're seeing episode 54 before they see episode 53. But you'll note when you get episode 53, whenever it comes out, that we made the horrible mistake of frequently saying, and we'll put a picture here.
You said that.
I said that a lot. That's my bad. It's all my fault. It's my bad. So there's a lot of stuff going on, so I want it to be edited quite well. And then my Camaro decided that it hates itself, and then I decided that I want to stay at work till 8 p.m. every day. So really, it's my own fault. You'll get it, and now we're here. This episode will go up tonight. Yes. By the time that we wake up tomorrow, this episode will be live. Episode 53, maybe August. I don't know. We'll see.
So we got Formula One to talk about. We got Moto GP to talk about. We have some NASCAR news that we can talk about. But I do just want to pull people in. Come close. Come here. Look, Ben's wearing a Porsche hat.
I know. Look at it.
Doesn't happen that often, and I'm wearing Le Porsche vest. So I'm very thankful for Ben bringing this back over from France.
Yay!
Guys, we got a lot to talk about. We got the Canadian Grand Prix in Formula One. We had it was MotoGP at Mugello that was this last weekend, or my 2 weekends.
Yes, Mugello, I think.
Okay. I think it was Mugello that we had. We got Marc Marquez news. We got Stewart Haas Racing driver announcements in NASCAR. We got a lot going on. So without any further ado or any other him and Han, we're going to get right into episode 54 of the Clutch Dump.
20 years of trying, 20 years.
And Senna sprints away. Banana.
Straight. Rossi's right in behind Lorenzo.
The 101st Indianapolis 500 is won by Takuma Sato. Dale Earnhardt will come to the caution flag to win the Daytona 500.
Ben, which series do you want to start with? Which motorsports happening?
I say we go ahead and we dive into Formula One, because I think it's the only one that both of us watched.
I watched a lot of highlights from Mugello.
Okay.
That's about it.
Well, the Canadian Grand Prix was...
Oops.
I mean, it was fine. It wasn't particularly fantastic. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, two very interesting things happened. Number one...
It's been like a week. I'm sorry. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Two very interesting things happened. Number one, George Russell drove into a wall.
Dude, do you see the meme I posted on my story that was like, George Russell, one of this generation's most promising drivers, crashes into a wall unassisted, trying
for
to
no reason.
Hamilton 38 and Fernando Alonso 42.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what was going on with that. I was actually watching it in silence because I was actually at like lunch for Father's Day.
Wow.
So I just like
F1.
So I was like eating lunch and then had my phone like sitting in my lap trying to watch it, and I just looked down and all of a sudden George Russell was missing half of his front wing. I was very confused.
I'm trying to remember what Shelby and I were doing, but that's what I was doing for qualifying. Like, I remember carrying things, moving things around, and I had in my hand, like down by my side, and I would lift it up and check. I'm like, damn, this is, so-and-so's not where we want them to be.
Right. So, but that was interesting. And then the other thing was we got racing between Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, which was pretty interesting. It wasn't a lot, but it was there. So we're appreciative of it.
Because Fernando came out on top.
He did. And I'll be honest, I am very impressed by what that old man is doing.
You keep talking, I'm going to be back momentarily.
Nick's going to be back. So I'm going to go ahead and run through some results here real quick, starting at the bottom, which is, I feel like, where we always start. Logan Sargent for Williams, DNF'd after only 6 laps. Pretty poor result. Mechanical failure. Not entirely his fault as far as I remember.
I would just like to comment on Logan Sargent. If he's not careful, he's not going to have a ride next year or whenever his contract ends. Because when his car does run, which it hasn't been consistently, when it does run, he's not within 10 places of Albon. And as much as I like him, he's just not performing on a level that the Williams...
I was about to say, I really like him. You know, he's our American boy. But here's the thing. He might only be in this sport, not saying that he's not a talented driver. He's absolutely far more talented than either Nick or I will ever be.
At driving.
At driving, yes. Looking old, Nick is far more talented.
I am exquisitely good at appearing well beyond my years.
Quite possibly the best.
Yes.
But Logan Sargent could seriously be out of a seat. I saw a thing today, I heard the word Schumacher thrown around. I doubt that. It is Williams Mercedes, so technically they could. I doubt it, though. I don't think that's what Williams wants. So, Logan Sargent, P20. George Russell, P19. He did make it a bit further, though. 53 laps. So he had his incident, which was right at the beginning of the race. Pitted. They did fix the damage, replaced part of the rear wing and the whole front wing. But he ended up having brake duct damage on the right rear of that car, so he did have to pit at lap 53. Nick DeVries, P18. Pretty poor result from Nick DeVries overall. He hasn't been...
He had that run-in with Magnussen that I thought was, like, obnoxiously... Like elementary, like he didn't look like a professional Formula One driver.
Right. It was a very unnecessary incident. So Nick DeVries, P18. And then speaking of Kevin Magnussen, P17 in the Haas. Zhou Guanyu, P16. I mean, all right, because he finished 16th and he qualified 20th because he had a mechanical failure in qualifying. 2 of those were DNFs, so really he only bumped up 3 spots, and the 2 people behind him crashed into each other. So I don't know how... A pretty poor result from Zhou. Nico Hülkenberg, quite possibly the biggest disappointment of the weekend, aside from George Russell.
Shadow of a doubt.
George Russell, everyone's just upset about because he's in a Mercedes, and if you don't finish top 6 in a Mercedes, the world laughs at you.
Mercedes writes apology letters to its fans.
Exactly. Surprisingly, no apology letter this week. But Nico Hülkenberg, 15th. If you didn't see, qualified 3rd? Second,
and then three place grid penalty for ignoring red flags dropped him to 5th.
Right. By the way, I think...
Dropped to, like, outside the top 10. It was miserable.
Right. I think that penalty is a bit harsh. I mean, to be fair.
Complaining.
I mean, I know, but to be fair.
I bomb Max. So.
Right. I mean, to be fair, the penalty abided by the rules, which says red flag is out, didn't slow down. To be fair, though, it came out when he was, like, on the start-finish straight, like, right before the line, and it was an incident on the other side of the track. It's not like he gained an advantage, per se. I know he did, because other people had their lap times not count, like Alonso, because of it, but still seems a bit harsh. Nico Hülkenberg, P15. Yuki Tsunoda, P14. Decent result, considering where De Vries finished. Lando Norris, P13.
Miserable result.
Miserable result for Lando and the McLaren. We thought they were moving a bit forward. They looked all right last race, but still, that McLaren seems to be nowhere. A bit better. They were finishing last at the start of the season.
The last few races has been on an upward trend.
Right.
I think this weekend, whatever momentum they had kind of stalled out. That's not to say that they can't continue to get better, but like the run of form that we had is kind of run out.
Right. I read something, I can't remember who said it.
George Russell, DNFing, that's one top 10 guaranteed position that is there for someone else.
Right. And if you're in a McLaren, you should be there.
Capitalize, yeah.
Excuse me. I read somewhere, I can't remember where, but someone said that the McLaren will probably be at Red Bull pace by the end of the season. I don't believe that.
I read something totally different.
What did you read?
I read, not about McLaren, but about Red Bull pace, that Aston Martin will be on par for Red Bull's pace halfway through this season, because apparently Aston Martin was saying with their projections for their upgrades or whatever, that they'll be on par with Red Bull, and Red Bull's already said they're already looking at 2024's car, I think. Yeah,
right, because they're so far ahead and so consistent this year.
Their current car is almost already maxed.
Right.
So doesn't really matter because Max has basically run away with the championship already.
Right.
But in terms of race-to-race entertainment, and who's actually potentially winning races, we might have a battle.
We might have some interesting races.
Be still my beating heart. If
possibly
Fernando is dueling Max for a race win, I am going to cry.
It'll be really good. I'm very excited. Now, moving on to P12, Pierre Gasly. Not a good result for him. Not been doing super good this season.
Alpine is another one of them where they have to be capitalizing on these opportunities where a guaranteed top 10 finisher is out. Because both Alpine and McLaren have arguably been the disappointment of the season. In terms of overall,
for sure,
where they were expected to be and where they are, I would say behind that is Alpha. But these are two 4th or 5th place constructors who are fighting it out for double-digit points.
Right. Not good from Pierre Gasly. Now moving on to the other McLaren, Oscar Piastri. I do believe this is the first time this season that he has outperformed Lando.
Yeah, doing all those predictions.
So I'm gonna finish that this weekend. I'm like 3 or 4 races behind on that. But I'm going to fix that this weekend.
I already picked a piece of merch, so don't worry.
I'm behind on my spreadsheets. Don't remind me. So Oscar Piastri, P11, just missing out on the points. Valtteri Bottas getting that last point for Alfa Romeo. Not a bad result from him. Obviously, we know he can be higher, but as we've talked about, that Alfa is not good. It seems to have good races and have bad races.
Right.
This seemed to be a decent race for them, especially with those DNFs. Lance Stroll, P9. Now, Lance Stroll is an interesting character. Not because he's just an interesting character, but overall, we know the Aston is fast. Quite possibly, actually is the second fastest car on the grid. So I think this season is going to be far more important to Lance Stroll than maybe even he realized. Maybe he does realize this. That
I saw a few memes where it was like, I don't remember. I think it was Lance. It was making fun of Lance. It was like Lance Stroll when he realizes he shouldn't have kept asking his dad to put the best world champions in his car. Because he kept going like, no, Dad, like I want Vettel, and no, let's go after Fernando. Like let's put the best, and I'll compete. And then it's like Fernando walked in, and Lance just fell apart. Like,
wait, these guys are actually really fast.
Holy wow! Vettel beat Alonso at his peak, and Alonso beat Schumacher at his peak, and I can't beat either of them. Like,
wow! So Lance Stroll P9. To be fair, did get some points on the board, so well done to Lance. But I mean, that's really all we can say. Well done, you finished the race.
It would be similar to George Russell. Points in an Aston Martin should be a guarantee every single weekend.
We should not be saying congrats to that.
And not just congrats on points, but congrats on a P9 in the points. Like maybe it was 6 if it was P2 6. But you look at the constructor standings. Mercedes is ahead of Aston Martin, which makes no sense whatsoever. And Ferrari is within a shout of Aston Martin. So if you're Lawrence Stroll, you need to put Lance on your lap and give him some spankings and tell him to get his shit together because he is single-handedly holding back this team.
Yeah, he is. He is definitely the weakest link
there. You know what? Maybe it's big brain time. Maybe he's intentionally sabotaging the constructors so that they get more wind tunnel testing time at the end of the season if they're not second in the constructors. Fernando get his results so that it's sexy and they get more sponsors. And then next year, they really have the championship car because Fernando already said they want to compete for a championship next year or the year after.
Maybe this is our plan. Maybe that's what this is.
It's not La Mission anymore either, is it? No,
I don't know what it is. They keep changing it. But
word for a scheme.
but maybe this is Lawrence Stroll's evil scheme, as he's like, all right, I'm going to get someone who's consistent.
Chateau.
We can get points, we can get sponsor money, which is good because I'm spending billions of dollars on this stupid factory. And then I'm just going to tell Lance I'll just up his allowance if he does garbage all season so that we get more wind tunnel time. This is it. You know what? Well done, Lance Stroll. Well done. You're doing great.
Okay, so the scheme in Spanish, according to Google Translate, is el esquema.
Well, there we go. That's what it is then. Now, someone who actually did rather well and did capitalize on those DNFs, Esteban Ocon P8 in the Alpine. The Alpine can actually do decent when we're missing a Mercedes and the McLarens aren't doing well.
Behind Ferrari. Oh, wait, no, fifth. Ferrari, Aston, Mercedes, and Red Bull.
Right. So Alpine can get points. If I was Pierre Gasly, I'd be a little bit concerned. Esteban Ocon P8. Now, someone who had probably the best race of the weekend, Alexander Albon P7 in a Williams.
And driver of the day.
Driver of the day, well-deserved. Made that car 15 feet wide and was defending against so many people for so long. P7 was a minute behind Max Verstappen. So absolutely nuts, but well done to Alexander Albon. Well-deserved 7th place. Now, someone else who should be concerned, Sergio Perez, P6. Now, normally, P6. Most people would be thrilled with a P6. However, if you're in a Red Bull, that is a danger zone.
On the grid.
We know the car's fast. As a matter of fact, it's about 10 seconds fast. 10 seconds faster than anything else when it has brake duct problems. So a P6...
We're lodged in the car.
So P6 for Sergio Perez.
With no
dead bird. I mean, the Yuki Tsunoda and... what's that guy's name? Daniel Ricciardo memes are fantastic.
They are. They're really
so
good.
far. They're very good. Now, I don't wish that Sergio Perez loses his seat.
No, of course not. Check.
Of course not. I think he's fantastic. I love him. I think he's a great second driver for Red Bull. Yes, he is the second driver, even though they won't say that. But P6 is not good enough. We know that's not good enough for Red Bull.
Well, and here's the thing. So Sergio had a great 2021. I would argue a better 2022. He is, we thought, immune to the curse of the Red Bull number 2 drivers, but I think it was just delayed, honestly.
Right. I
think Checo suffers from a lot of what Nico Rosberg suffered from. I know I'm going back a ways. Ooh.
Showing your age here, Nick.
Exactly. Ugh. In the sense that they both get in their own heads so easily, and when they do, it takes weeks and multiple race weekends for them to get out of their head. And Checo, really at Azerbaijan, even though he won, it wasn't quite as commanding as we're used to. And then in Monaco,
right,
cocks it up in quali, and then here, just not
doing it,
unraveling itself kind of more and more. And the other thing is as opposed to a Max Verstappen or Sebastian Vettel, when they're at the back of the field in the Red Bull, they were able to get back up to the front end.
Right.
Checo stalls out in the lower 10, the lower top 10, when he gets to the Ferraris or he gets to the Aston Martins or the Mercedes, which, again, while they're fast cars, Max carves right through.
Right. Passes them like they're sitting still.
At Miami, yeah, he made Fernando look like he was driving a golf cart. Walked him. But Perez really, really struggles. And obviously no one is doubting that Max is a better driver.
Right.
But if you're Red Bull and you have your number 2, you're at least expecting that when you have a car that's this sizably the best car in the field, you should have a good enough driver that they can overtake anybody else.
Right. It should have been.
In that car will never not finish second or first.
Right.
No, unless the car fails.
Right. So hopefully we see a bit more from Sergio Perez as the season moves on. Now we have a Ferrari in 5th and 4th of Carlos Sainz and then Charles Leclerc in P4.
Result this year?
Probably the best team result for Ferrari this year. Given the competition, that's about the best we can hope for from Ferrari. So well done to those two for finishing the race. Now, Lewis Hamilton on the podium, P3. Well done. Fantastic. I think well-deserved. Even more well-deserved, Fernando Alonso, P2. Outstanding result. Qualified third, finished second, ended up starting second because of Nico Hulkenberg's red flag incident. But started second, finished second. Well done. Had a battle with Lewis. He dropped down into third at one point, got back up.
Off the start, when Lewis got him, I was like, are you kidding me?
I was shocked.
This is your piece de resistance. This
is your thing.
Yeah, like, this is what you're known for, and you lose out to Lewis. And there was a part of me that thought, especially when, and you would have to remind me what race, but when Lewis got second already this season, and Fernando was third, and do I have this right? Because Fernando the entire race, or maybe Fernando was fourth, but the entire race Fernando was, or maybe it was Melbourne. He was pushing and pushing and pushing and closing in a little bit on Lewis, but then Lewis would extend it back out. Anyways, listeners, comment if you're on YouTube or on Spotify.
Yes, well done. Correct. Melbourne.
Oh, fantastic.
Well done. Fantastic job, Nick.
But yeah, I mean, there's been times where Lewis was quick enough to hold Fernando. And so when Lewis got by, I was like, oh, son of a, like this, he's not going to get back past him. So I don't know what about this race in particular, especially with Mercedes having made more upgrades since Melbourne. I don't know why Fernando was able to quite as easily as he did. Now, granted, he in the post-race interview was saying, I was pushing every lap. I never had a chance to relax. Granted, right. But he still did it, and then he was still able to extend a margin. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining, but it's just a little weird.
Right. So it does appear that as the Mercedes gets a bit closer to the Aston, hopefully, probably later in the season, the Aston will get a bit closer to the Red Bull. Now, Nick, would we like to talk about this podium and how impressive it is as a whole?
I'd love to talk about my favorite part of the podium, which is not just Fernando.
Okay, it is
Fernando in the post-race press conference. Did you see, not the selfie, but the video of him where he's sitting on the couch and he's literally just kicking his feet and he's watching?
Yes, I saw that.
I was like, he's like 6 years old. Like, what is he?
Hilarious, dude. He's
22 years old, hundreds of millions of dollars to his name, multiple world champion, widely regarded as one of the biggest natural talents in the history of the sport.
He's staring at the floor, kicking his feet like a dog. It's the funniest thing. I did see that. That was hilarious.
Yeah, this podium is spectacular. So for those of y'all that maybe didn't watch the race or don't remember, it's Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, and Lewis Hamilton. All three of which, aside from Clark, Fangio, and Senna and Schumacher, are probably considered the top 10, or if you just include the people I count, the top 7 best drivers in the history of the sport. And not just best, but most naturally gifted. You have Max, who's absolutely cunning, defies the laws of physics with his car and his ability. You have Fernando, who similarly, but also a lot of his talent is the fact that he's been able to prolong his career, not because of sponsorship deals and not because of videos,
because he can drive.
Pace, yeah, his skill, his reactions have not diminished. And then you have Lewis Hamilton, who, last thing on Fernando, also, you make history when you beat the most successful driver in history, being Schumacher. Right. And then you have Hamilton, who's, in all categories and even in some exceeded, match Schumacher's numbers. So you have all of those together at vastly different points in their careers, all together on the same podium, and they all got there in very different ways. I'll let you go through some of the numbers.
So some of the statistics, which were super cool. Also, if you maybe don't watch the post-race for Formula One, if you don't watch the podiums, the winning team sends up a representative. And super cool. Red Bull sent up Adrian Newey. If you don't know who that is, he is the...
Clearly don't watch F1, and you're...
Well, right. You haven't watched F1 for the past, 30 years. Adrian Newey is the chief engineering design. I don't know what his official title is anymore. He's in charge of making the car fast. That's his job.
He is the chief technology officer of Red Bull Racing.
That's what it was. It was some technical... He's in charge of the car.
He's a goddamn genius. And he doesn't age either.
He doesn't. He looks the exact same as he always has.
When Schumacher was a rookie, he looked the same.
He looked the exact same. So, on this podium, among the drivers, 176 wins between Max, Fernando, and Lewis, 11 championships among the drivers, Now, Adrian Newey has 13 championships to his name between Williams, McLaren, and Red Bull. And the Canadian Grand Prix was Adrian Newey's 200th win for a car that he designed. So,
did you know that Adrian Newey drove in the 24 Hours of Le Mans?
Yeah, in 2016 for AF Corsa, right?
2006.
Oh, 2006. Oh, that's right, because it was in an F430, which would have been 2006.
And he in the Le Mans Classic totaled an original GT40 and then wrecked an E-Type at Goodwood.
Okay, so the E-Type, total sidebar. I am obsessed with his E-Type. Have you seen pictures of it?
No, but I'll look.
Okay, so just look up Adrian Newey's E-Type. It doesn't look like an E-Type. He Adrian Newey'd an E-Type. Like, if you look at it, it's E-Type-ish, but, like, there's body lines that are missing or moved or tucked or shrunk or whatever.
Of course there's a bull on it.
Like, but just heads up, that car, that E-Type that he races at Goodwood has definitely seen some time in the Red Bull wind tunnel. I guarantee it. Like, it is, Jenson Button was talking because he raced against him in Goodwood, because Jenson Button has a brown D-Type, in case you're wondering. What an absolute man of taste, having a brown D-Type.
He has a lot of things that are tasteful, like his automotive company and plenty of other things.
Yes.
But yeah, that E-Type has had...
It's not an E-Type.
things.
Yeah. But apparently Jenson Button has raced against him in his D-Type, and has said, like, it doesn't do E-Type things. It does things that old cars shouldn't do.
Adrian Newey's E-Type.
What's up?
There's Scare Electric slot car models of his E-Type. It's like,
are there?
Really that famous of a car?
Oh, I'm going to go buy one after this. Oh, also something impressive about this race is it was Red Bull's 100th race win. So well done to Red Bull. Super impressive considering they started in 2005, I think.
Yeah, so I believe so.
So well done to Red Bull. Now, this was Max Verstappen's 41st win, which does mean we need to talk about a Brazilian for a moment. One Ayrton Senna.
Which,
now,
in fact, same track that Lewis Hamilton tied Senna on.
Really?
Because if you'll remember that video of Lewis getting the Senna helmet.
Oh, great video, by the way. Great video. I recommend that everyone go find that video. It's a very touching video. And, well, Nick's a hater, so.
I am.
He's an old man. He's grumpy. Let him be.
Those damn British coming in and winning everything. Sorry.
Max compared to Senna, I've got some stats here. Total race wins, 41 for the both of them. Race starts, Max has 171, Senna has 161.
Killed Max.
Podiums, Max has 81, Senna 84. Total points, Max has 2,153.5, Senna has 1,859.5. Now, something to note about that, you get a lot more points per race now, and there's a lot more races per season.
What year did Senna drive the Tolman? I'm looking that up. I think it was 83.
I don't know. I'm only familiar with Senna's like early career and the end of his career. I'm blurry on the middle. So Nick's here for that. Average points per race, Max 12.5, Senna 11.5. Nick with the facts? No? Working on it?
I wasn't. Okay. So he made his debut in 84.
Okay. Thoughts, words.
Okay. So Max achieved this, though, even though it was in more races in less time. That's what I was trying to calculate.
Yes.
Max won his first race, he won his first race with Red Bull, and no, I'm wrong, because he was driving for Toro Rosso in 2014, so 9 years versus Senna in 10.
We still achieved this in less time. Not by much, but...
By less than 12 months.
Right. I mean, and then also there's like twice as many races per season now. So
call it 10 seasons each, because Senna died in the middle of his 10th. So...
Right. So, I mean, like, and this is one of those things, take this with a grain of salt, like we talked about at the end of last season when Max won his championship, and we compared him to Schumacher and to Lewis and to Vettel and all those guys. It's like, remember, different times. The racing was different. The safety was different. The tech was like, it's very different.
Verstappen would have died at Silverstone 2 years ago. So
right. You can't compare the two. But just these are the numbers we have. So pole positions, Max has 25, Senna has 65.
Which that blew my mind.
That statistic I absolutely love because you're like, oh, they're super close. They're really not. Senna was an absolute psychopath, and I'm very upset that I never got to see him race, obviously, before my time. Fastest laps, Max has 24, Senna has 19.
I was 65 when he made his debut.
I know you were, Nick. It's okay, Dad. Titles 1, Max 2, Senna 3.
Right.
Probably going to change this year for Max. And consecutive wins, Max has 5, Senna has 4. If you're wondering what the record is Sebastian Vettel. The year that he won his 4th title, he won 9 races in a row.
So, Max said winning championships over and over and over aren't
boring
in F1. So, while I would love for him to go blow Lewis out of the water,
right?
Hear me out. Max retires.
Okay.
Let's say, hypothetically, it's Danny Rick and Checo or Danny Rick and Yuki Tsunoda and Red Bull.
Which would be great. That'd be an outstanding pairing.
Yes. But do I think either of them could win a world championship in this year's Red Bull? No.
No.
Okay, so we're on the same page. Mercedes can't get their shit together.
True.
Aston Martin.
It could happen. I know what you're thinking, Nick. I've been thinking it too. It's
theoretically possible.
It's possible.
On top of yes, guys, shh, those listening, I know y'all already yelling at me. Pipe down.
Stop yelling at the old man.
The contract is done at the end of 2025. 2 years from now.
It's just words. Words can be changed.
But if Fernando surveys the landscape and sees that there's maybe a potential for a world championship, or let's say there were a few points behind in one of the next 2 years, do you think that Lawrence Stroll would really, if Alonso wanted, say, no, sorry, you're too old?
Sorry, dude, you've been our most successful driver ever. You gotta go.
No shot. No shot. No.
Exactly.
You heard it here first. I think Fernando Alonso will be the 2026 Formula One world champion.
I'll try to find it and send it to you later. I can't remember if it was on TikTok or Instagram, but I can't remember which it was, but a post where someone predicted.
Yes, I saw that.
Formula One through like 2026 or whatever it was, down to like driver changes and everything. And like I want to find that again so that I can just write it all down and look back.
So, I don't know if screw it, it's our podcast, so we can talk about whatever we want.
Yeah, whatever.
Christian Horner had confirmed that in 2009, when Alonso was on Renault for the second time,
right,
third time, Red Bull approached him and made him an offer before Vettel. Right? I think Vettel's first year was 2010 with them, right? So Red Bull approached Fernando and said, hey, don't go to Ferrari. Here's an offer. And they wanted to sign him to a 3 or 4 year deal. Fernando said, you've never won a race.
You've never won anything.
You're this new team. Fernando said, I'll do it, but I only want a 1 year contract to see how it goes. And Christian Horner said, you're going to take a multi-year deal or we're not doing anything. Because we need a number one driver.
What could have been, Nick? What could have been?
My dad, I was like, hear me out. Fernando would have had his 2 with Renault. Assuming he could do as well as Vettel, which he absolutely could. That's 4 more. So that's 6. And then he would have been in Red Bull, theoretically, if he was happy and after winning all those championships.
Sure, why wouldn't he be?
14 or 15 or 16. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but he could have had a tenure at Red Bull, and basically Max Verstappen would have never come along and been a Red Bull, and Fernando would have been like a 8-time world or 10-time world champion.
Could have been. What could have been?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I think that's.
No. Sorry.
I think that's going to wrap up our Formula One section. We do not have a Formula One race this coming weekend, but we do have the Austrian Grand Prix July 2nd, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to move on to Moto GP. Now, we did have the German Grand Prix this past weekend. I'm going to run through your sprint race results and then your race results, and then we have some talking points. So, sprint race, DNFs, we have Jonas Folger and Maverick Vinales. Maverick not having a good result the past couple of races. Raul Fernandez in 18th, Taka Nakagami 17th, Miguel Oliveira 16th, Franco Morbidelli showing how quality that Yamaha is in P15, Augusto Fernandez 14th, Fabio Quartararo 13th. Not a good result. Fabio Di Gianantonio 12th, Marc Marquez 11th, Enea Bastianini 10th. He's working off an injury, we'll let it be. Aleix Espargaro getting those first points in 9th, because remember, MotoGP points are 1st through 15th, except for the sprint, which is 1st through 9th. So Aleix Espargaro, P9, getting a point. Alex Marquez, P8. Marco Bezzecchi, P7. Brad Binder, 6th. Johan Zarco, 5th. Luca Marini, 4th. Jack Miller on the podium for KTM once again, P3. Pecco Bagnaia, P2. And Jorge Martin, P1. Moving on to your race results, if this will load. Once again, Maverick Vinales, DNF. Not a good weekend for him. Yes. Weekend to forget.
Yes.
Brad Binder, yes. DNF.
Oh.
He had a spill 12 laps into the race. Jonas Folger finishing this one, but in P17. Aleix Espargaro not having a good result. In P16. Now, something to remember is you get points through 15th, so only the 2 people finishing 16th and 17th did not get points this race. Raul Fernandez, your rookie, P15. Taka Nakagami, 14th. Fabio Quartararo in P13, finishing behind his teammate Franco Morbidelli in 12th.
Let's go, Franco.
Attaboy, Franco. Show him how it's done. Augusto Fernandez in 11th. Miguel Oliveira 10th. Fabio Di Gianantonio 9th. Enea Bastianini 8th. Slightly better result from his, sprint race. Alex Marquez 7th. Jack Miller 6th. Luca Marini 5th. Marco Bezzecchi 4th. Johan Zarco 3rd. Pecco Bagnaia 2nd. And Jorge Martin 1st. Now, if you were listening closely, you will note that there was a crucial name missing from that order, and that is one Marc Marquez. Now,
shucks, I wasn't listening.
Thank you, Nick. Now, Marc Marquez is quite the talking point over this past weekend when
Marc Marquez is like a Botox-filled high-drama ex-wife.
Who crashed 5 times this weekend.
Well, and then he's like, oh, I don't think Honda's spending too much time in the F1 program. I think they're just as devoted. It's like, what are you talking about?
No, they're not. They're really not.
Also, nobody cares. Like, you had your championships. Go home.
Right. I think that's kind of everyone's problem. Is it's like
how many times?
Right. So Marc Marquez had 5 crashes this weekend, which, by the way, one of which was during warm-up before the race, which is like a 15-minute session.
Of the dog in a fiery building and just going, this is fine. He crashes 5 times. He's like, but I'm a however many time world champion. He's like, this is fine. So he crashed during warm-up before the race and broke his thumb. So he did not take part in the race because the man is he's a falling disaster. He's not a walking disaster. He's a high siding disaster.
Exactly. So he crashed 5 times. Once during free practice 1, once during free practice 2. In free practice 2.
Right?
What's up?
Sachsenring?
Yes.
It's not like a 2-track either, guys. Come on.
Yeah. Also, like it noted, he's won the past, 12 races that he's raced here.
The way you just went I had to
think of the number, but apparently when he started here in Moto 3, he won, and then just won Moto 3, Moto 2, and every race in GP. So he was known as the King of the Ring, and it appears that the king has fallen, literally. So, I think, controversial to many opinions.
Oh,
I think it's time for Marc Marquez to hang up the leathers. I think.
Didn't we say that when the podcast started a year and a half ago or something?
I've been saying this for a while. I think 2020 when he crashed, I think when he started seeing double, I think that's a good time to stop racing motorcycles. That's a good point.
Word for the wise. If you're doing 225 on a motorcycle and you're seeing double,
that's a problem.
Maybe stop.
I'll keep that in mind for my track day in 3 weeks. But my buddy Tim, Crescent. I'm sorry, my bad. But my buddy Tim, shout out to Tim if you're listening to this. He thinks that Mark should go and ride for another manufacturer, not Honda, because
I think you should he's at World Superbike, something that's just a different formula than MotoGP.
I think. Well, I'm actually worried about World Superbike because World Superbike's a bit not more competitive than MotoGP, but competitive in a different way.
Right.
I think it would suit his riding style better.
Right.
Because
come beat up on some poor American kids.
Well, so I actually think Mark's problem. Mark can't do what Fernando has been doing. So Fernando has raced in very different kinds of F1 cars, which no one else currently on the grid has. So, I mean, some were pre-hybrid era, but none as much as Fernando was.
Closest being Lewis, yeah.
Right. So he has adapted to the different cars. Mark hasn't, because MotoGP bikes just got aero a couple years ago, and you have to ride much differently, whereas he's used to riding much more aggressively and having to lean on the tire, and he just ends up flying through the air, and it's a disaster. So, Mark,
it makes me so happy that he's just choking. I'll
tell you what, man, the Rossi flag would agree with you.
Right? The pain I went through seeing him beat up on this old Italian guy who just wanted to be his country's hero, and he is obviously. But Rossi could have gone out in a slow blaze of glory, but Marc Marquez had come rip that out of his hands. And now that Marquez literally can't hold anything in his own hands because he's broken it to, and now the fact that Rossi's going to go race at Le Mans with Team WRT, hopefully.
Shout out to Rossi.
Hopefully. All right, Mark, I see you beating me at the Bugatti circuit. I raise you Lassard.
I'll just leave. Fine.
Take my car home and leave.
I just realized I bought a second Rossi flag at some point, and I don't know where it is.
Ladies and gentlemen,
very important to this podcast. But Marc Marquez not doing super well. Jorge Martin winning both the sprint and the race this weekend.
The dude was on fire in Moto2.
He was untouchable. This is his third podium in a row for the races, but this is 3 sprint race wins in a row for Jorge Martin. He's doing fantastic. He's now up to second in the championship behind Pecco Bagnaia.
Yeah.
And he is absolutely a title contender for this year, which will be super interesting to watch. Because I think he's just butthurt that he was promised the factory seat. And then Ene Bastianini came in and kind of shocked the scene last year, and he got this seat. That is all we have for MotoGP this week. We do have the Motul TT Assen this weekend, so stay tuned for that. IndyCar Road America. Nick, did you watch it?
No.
Neither did I.
I forgot. I literally got home for Father's Day and all that stuff, and I got home and I was like, yes. And I'm scrolling through Instagram. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it, and then all of a sudden I saw podium photos, and I was like,
yep.
Oh, right, you. Well, in that case, I will sprint through results real quick.
Please.
David Malukas, 27th, Jack Harvey, 26th, Roman Grosjean, 25th. Disappointment. Marcus Armstrong, 24th, Devlin DiFrancesco, 23rd, Stingray Robb, the greatest name ever, 22nd, Benjamin Peterson, 21st, Felix Rosenquist, 20th, Agustin Canapino, I butchered that, 19th, Callum Ilott, 18th, Ryan Hunter Ray, 17th, Santino Ferrucci, 16th.
Wait, further, it was announced Ryan Hunter Ray is going to race for Ed Carpenter Racing next year. I forgot to mention that in our last episode, but since you just mentioned his name, I remembered. So there you go.
There we go. Santino Ferrucci, 16th. Helio Castroneves, 15th. Simon Pagenaud, 14th. Will Power, 13th. Renus VK, 12th. Graham Rahal, 11th. Alexander Rossi, 10th. Kyle Kirkwood, 9th. Scott McLaughlin, 8th, Christian Lundgaard in 7th, Marcus Ericsson, P6, Colton Herta in 5th, Scott Dixon in 4th, Pato O'Ward, our San Antonio boy, in 3rd, Joseph Newgard in 2nd, and Alex Palou, for the 2nd race in a row and the 3rd race of the season, is on the top step of the podium for Chip Ganassi Racing.
Got to drive this last weekend.
What's up?
This
No.
week. Did you see what Pato O'Ward got to drive? So
Yeah, he was driving all the McLaren cool things.
all of the cool McLarens in the history
Like,
of McLaren.
All of them. Like, it was like, oh, look, here's Senna's car. Here's an F1. Here's a P1 GTR.
Yeah, here's the Le Mans winning F1 GTR.
It was nuts. So well done to Alex Palou. 3rd victory of the 2023 IndyCar season. First being the Indy Road Course, the Detroit GP, and then now Road America.
Well, you got 2 bits of NASCAR news.
Do we?
Just 2.
Just 2? Okay, please, bits.
So this coming weekend is the Ally 400 at Nashville Superspeedway.
Yeet.
That's number 1. Number 2, Josh Berry, who you've heard a lot on this podcast because he's been the super sub like Nico Hulkenberg was in years past, just signed a full-time deal with Stuart Haas, and he will be replacing Kevin Harvick when he retires in the number 4 car.
Fantastic.
Stewart said they think he'll be a champion. And I was like, you just signed him. Let's wait and see how it
He just got here. Relax.
literally just walked in. Anyways, that's all of NASCAR.
That's all of NASCAR. And now the last thing we're going to touch on is the Pikes Peak Hill Climb, because that is going on this week.
Yeah, I'm depressed I don't see any David Donahue and GT2RS.
Well, at the end of the race, we're going to go through all of it. This is just practice and qualifying. At the time of recording this, Thursday the 22nd, Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember. Saturday or Sunday is race day, so we're still going through practice and qualifying. So I'm going to run through some times real quick just because there's some cars that we've talked about, and I want to see how they're doing. So on the 20th, that'd be 2 days ago, upper section, Romain Dumas, who you will have heard of from various things.
If you like racing
or Pikes Peak or racing. In Supervan 4 did a 2-minute 24.7. Behind him was Raphael Astier in the Alpine A110 GT4 Evo with a 2-minute 38-second time. Behind him, current king of the mountain Robin Schute in his Wolf TCS FS did a 2-minute 41.32. Lucy Block in her Sierra Echo did a 3-minute 27, and Cole Powelson in the Power Stroke powered Nissan GTR did not set a time. They were having mechanical issues in the middle section on that day. So if you're not familiar with how this works, because there's so many cars, they can't run the whole mountain for practice. So they don't actually run the full mountain until race day when they get one run. So they split it up into sections with gaps in between that they never run until race day. And those sections they use as staging. So they split up the groups by pace, and then they go and run different sections. So on the 20th, in the middle section, Tanner Faust in the Radford Type 62-2 did a 2-minute 31.199.
Running, and that's so badass. Like that sentence you just uttered, I was like, what?
Yeah, so the Radford Type 62-2 looks fantastic. Probably the best looking race car there, aside from maybe the Superfan. I'm partial to the Superfan. It's really cool.
No, the Radford better.
Did a 2-minute 31.199, which was the second fastest in the middle section, only behind the Model S Plaid of Randy Post. Nick Patty just looked up the Radford.
Yes.
So I'm going to move.
What? That's how it should have been made. Why is
it's so cool?
Why
you see,
it's not a GT3 car.
It's center driving position.
Why is this not real?
It's so cool. It is real. There's one.
It's not real enough.
I know. I'm very excited though, because I bet you Jensen Button's going to keep it around and go rip it around at Goodwood and stuff.
Oh my lord!
I bet you it's going to go on a world tour.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know you're going to hate me for saying this, but depending on what this sounds like, this might be cooler than Garage 56.
It's super cool. It's such a cool looking car. Because it's like 60s sports car design that they
also,
just
like
threw GT Aero at.
One neck wing, just
so good. The livery's fantastic. Also, Tanner Faust driving it, and I'm a Tanner Faust fan. And then 2 other cars that I'm super interested in. Michael Wadette, also known as Mad Mike, in his Mazda 3, did a 2-minute 49.210. Nick, I don't know if you're aware of this. You remember my Mazda 3 hatchback that I had? The red car?
Yeah.
So he's in one of those, except it has a turbo 4-rotor and is rear-wheel drive.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the guy right behind him who did it in a Ford pickup.
Scott Birdsall, also known as Chuckles Garage, in a 1949 Ford F1, also known as Old Smoky, did a 2-minute 56.713.
Ain't no way, right?
Dude, it is a tube chassis.
Oh, it looks so stupid.
What, the truck?
Dude, you have like Radford, which is the epitome of the automotive industry over hundreds of years.
Yep.
And then you have Chuckles in a rusted truck.
And I'll tell you what, Chuckles is pretty fast.
Not really fast, though, so honestly, you can shove it.
No, it is currently the fastest diesel to ever run at Pikes Peak, which is super cool. It's a 1949 Ford F1 pickup. It makes 1,500 horsepower and has a sequential trans and is a tube chassis race car. It's freaking cool. And then yesterday in the upper section, so they switched. So Tanner Faust in the Radford went fastest with a time of 2 minutes and 40 seconds, which was actually faster than Robin Schute's time.
Is there onboard from this? I gotta.
I'm assuming there will be at the end. Mad Mike Wadette in his Mazda 3 did a 2:55.61, and Scott Birdsall did not set a time in Old Smoky. In the lower section, Robin Shute did go fastest in the Wolf TCS FS with a time of 3 minutes 24 seconds, .711. Romain Dumas in the Supervan 4 did 3:39.939. Raphael Astier in the Alpine A110 did a 3:51.872. Lucy Block in that Sierra Echo car did a 4-minute 51.101. So she's exactly 1 minute behind the Alpine in the lower section. It's understandable. She's in an electric go-kart, basically. Yeah. And Cole Powelson in the Power Stroke GTR did a 4-minute 34.753.
God.
He is trying to break the overall diesel record currently held by Old Smoky F1. Today, due to dangerous weather, heavy fog, led to the cancellation of all sections today. Today's run groups will be moved to tomorrow.
Today being Thursday the 22nd, tomorrow being Friday when this is live. So
yes, heads up. So today they will be doing yesterday's run group.
But
there you go.
Now, tomorrow.
Right, not today, tomorrow, today, and not tomorrow, today. We. So stay tuned for more Pikes Peak stuff. It's one of my favorite races every year. I love to see it. It's super cool.
It's Luke and Rod on crack going.
I know. It's awesome. And they've done the calculations, and it is quite possible that Romain Dumas could set a new overall record in Supervan 4. It is
the brand new Ford one we've been seeing everywhere.
Yeah. So that is the electric Ford Transit van that may or may not be a transit van and might be a tube chassis covered in carbon fiber that makes 1,400 horsepower.
So stupid.
It's the coolest thing, Nick.
I like van race cars. This one is
so. Why is it dumb? It's a van that makes more than its weight in downforce.
Here's why.
That's cool.
Here's why.
Because the old Supervans were cooler.
The Renault Supervan is the only van that matters.
Well, no, the Supervan 1 was, or Supervan 2, 3, I can't remember which one it was. Whichever one had the DFV Cosworth F1 engine in it. That one was cool.
So the Renault.
Yeah, the Renault was cool when it had the V10 in it. That one was cool. Yeah, that one's cool.
That's
I want Ford at some point to do like a parade at Goodwood with all 4 of the Supervans. That'd be pretty cool. I think that'd be interesting. So we will report in our next episode on how all of the competitors did at Pikes Peak. Something to note, we did talk about that Aston Martin Vantage GT3 that someone was going to run up Pikes Peak. In all of the timesheets so far, I have not seen an Aston Martin Vantage. So I'm assuming that they did not make it to Pikes Peak this year. Hopefully everything's okay with the car. Another thing to note, during practice before the event, the Dussault Designs first-gen Camaro, that's the crazy winged-out time attack Camaro that I posted about from Super Lap Battle at Coda, it did wreck during During practice,
That makes
drive
it's not okay, but
driver totally fine. It was in the lower sections. It was a slow speed crash. Everyone's fine. The car actually still runs. Like, they've shown videos, it runs, but the chassis is messed up, so
Right.
they have to start over.
yes.
But they said it's going to come back and be way faster next year. I would like it noted, though, I don't remember the dude's last name. I know his first name is Joseph, but there is a 2002 Chevy Camaro running up, and it looks freaking sick. It's a GT1 car. One of the 4th gen GT1 cars. It looks sick. So that'll be super cool. We will report on that whenever that is all finished up. That's going to do it for episode 54 here at The Clutch Dump. As we said at the top of the show, make sure you go follow us on all audio platforms, whichever that's Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. Make sure you follow, subscribe, whatever you can do. Make sure you leave a rating and a review on the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for listening and watching. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you turn the notification bell on so that you get the latest episodes from us, including episode 53 whenever it goes live. And make sure you like and share the video. Make sure you go follow us on social media at The Clutch Dump. That's going to do it from us here at episode 54 at The Clutch Dump. We'll see you next time.